This is TWiT.
Hey, buddy, are you a geek? Are you a tech enthusiast? Then I would love to invite you to join a tech community like no other. You can gain exclusive access to our incomparable quality tech content for just $7 a month with Club TWiT. As a member, you'll enjoy all TWiT TV shows ad-free. Plus, access private video feeds for insider shows like iOS Today, Home Theater Geeks, and so much more. Dive into the members-only TWiT Plus bonus feed for behind-the-scenes content, club discussions, and special events. But here's the best perk. Join our incredible Discord community to watch live show productions, chat with hosts, and participate in exclusive members-only activities. It's your backstage pass to the world of TWiT. Whether you're a tech enthusiast or a lifelong learner, Club TWiT elevates your knowledge while entertaining your interests. Get 2 weeks free when you sign up now for $7 a month and unlock unparalleled access at twit.tv/clubtwit. That's twit.tv/clubtwit. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you and welcome to the club. Hey, everybody, it's time for Stacey's Book Club, the show we do every other month to talk about a great sci-fi book. And really, for me, it's just an excuse to get Stacey Higginbotham back on our airwaves. Hi, Stacey.
Hello. I'll be
Christmas.
coming back in January on, I think, This Week in Tech.
Oh, good.
So
that's nice. Yes, I think I remember seeing that. That's great. Stacey now works in policy at Consumers Report, which is great. Consumer Reports is my favorite thing. I've been a member since the 80s.
Oh, well, thank
member.
you so much.
Paying member. And you just did something actually very interesting. You had a hand in something Consumer Union. I keep calling it Consumers Union because I'm an old timer. They changed the name to Consumer Reports a while ago. But just recently, in fact, somebody said, I wonder if Stacey had a hand in that. And now I'm trying to remember what it was. You remember, I hope.
Well, I don't know. We sent a letter to the FTC.
Things, right?
The FTC actually came out with a report that cited research that I helped do on end of life for appliances, like how long your connected appliances would last.
I think that might have been it. Yes, I think it was it. Like companies should be more forthright in how long they're going to support that IoT device.
Yes,
in fact, they should put it on the label.
Yes, this is my pet issue. So yes, these are all things that I have done and will continue to do.
Nice.
My big things are put a label on it that says how long you're going to support it. And then my second big thing is secure routers. And that's going to be so fun. Anyway, but this is not the mercy of gods. And I have a bone.
Let's talk about the mercy of gods. This is our book. James S.A. Corey. They, Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank are I hope I'm not spoiling anything for people, but they're two authors. They've not made a big deal of hiding that.
I didn't know that until I looked, I literally found that out today, but yes.
They're famous for writing The Expanse, which was really a beloved Hugo Award-winning sci-fi series made into a TV show that was equally beloved. So they have a lot of mind share right now in the sci-fi community. This was not a book you picked.
No, and I'm a little upset. I'm going to just say it because I try so hard to avoid reading a trilogy or any sort of series of books before they're all out.
I agree.
Most of them are out.
I agree.
So now I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, you guys.
And The Expanse The Expanse wasn't a trilogy. I've forgotten how many.
They had like 5, 7.
There were quite a few of them. Yeah. So it could vary. And we don't know how long the mercy of gods is going to go on, but it could go on a while. Let me do this disclaimer before we really get into this, which is that we are going to have massive spoilers. That if you haven't read the book, and this is a good one not to listen to what we're saying until after you've read the book, because I think there's some surprises in this book. If you have not read the book, please put this on hold until after you have. It's worth it.
I had a thought that maybe we could start with just your general opinions for people who haven't read it, and then we could go into spoilers.
Okay, so no spoiler opinions first. And I want to say that it was Jason Snell who recommended this when he was on the show last time, and it got voted in against your will.
I didn't campaign actively against the book. I'm just like, this violates my policies.
So let's go with Anthony's recommendation. What did you think? No spoiler, review.
I think they do a really good job. Like the same thing in The Expanse, where they're like really taking politics. This time the politics is like not writ across an entire university and like what it means to be human and your political plays, but they're like compressing it into like a locked room situation kind of. And I also liked, I don't think it's a spoiler to be like, hey, there are aliens. So you learn a lot about aliens. And I really liked both inhabiting like the otherness of the aliens. So you could really see how like a totally different worldview could come around. And then also coming up with so many different others. And I also liked the science. I don't really know if it's like super hard science, but the science around like figuring out like what kind of world each alien evolved from based on their biological characteristics. I thought that was fun. I enjoyed the book. I'm just mad that, now
you have to wait for part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Yeah, I agree with you. Normally I wait because it is frustrating. And this book really ends in media res. It ends in the middle of it. And we don't know what's going to happen. But I feel like it's going to be prolonged. There is a little subtle hint in the name of the series, which is The Captives' War. And that almost could be a spoiler, to be honest. So I loved the book more than I love most science fiction books. And I'll tell you why. I don't want to do any spoilers, so I'll talk about some of my more specific thoughts once we get past the pre-spoiler section. But I feel like these guys, I read the first book of The Expanse and liked it a lot, but I didn't continue on with it. I watched the series for the first season and I didn't continue on with it. Sci-fi sometimes to me is a little cold. You're out in space. It's chilly. It's metal. It feels cold to me. I don't know another way to describe it. This one was very human. And in fact, I think that these guys have made progress. James S.A. Corey has made progress as writers because this one really was much more about the human experience than it was about science or space or even the fact that there are aliens about aliens. It was about humanity. And I thought had some really insightful moments. One of the characters, David, who is, I guess, in a way, the main character eventually, but one of the characters, David, says, "Yeah, I always see other people's motives. It's a problem for me because I see how the other person thinks. I'm empathetic with the other person." And I really, not only did I identify with it, I thought that was a very insightful thought into the way of some people are. This was, I think, deeply intelligent about humanity. And I really liked it for that. I think I didn't have, it's still a little metal and a little cold, but there's not a lot of space. And I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I was sad when it concluded.
When it
I was ready to
ended.
read the next one. Yeah. Yeah. So
should we take any thoughts from other people?
I think we say at this point, you may hear spoilers now.
Okay.
So go away thinking this is a book worth reading. Yes. Would you agree, Stacey?
Yes.
I was a little worried because you like a different style of sci-fi. You like cozy.
No, I like this style of science fiction. Okay. And I still am a little uncertain about this one because, like, to me, it feels like there's less to talk about. Like, I'm like, yeah, these things happen to these people. I'm trying still not to spoil things just yet.
Right.
It feels, to me, the fun of like a traditional sci-fi book is both escapism and like, how are you going to deal with the tropes of the genre? How are you going to embrace it? How are you going to lose it? And and your plot, like, is your plot going to just drive me forward? So we tend to, but that's not a lot to talk about in book club sometimes. So I try to.
I'm going to come up with some stuff with this book clubbish.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying too. We could just.
So
it happens. We don't do a great job anyway. We're like.
So Stacey's review is, it's a good book, but not for book club.
Yeah, it didn't feel like literary or, like there weren't like a lot of like things that I'm like, ooh, was this a metaphor?
Oh yeah. Although they do say, and I was going to count it, and I forgot to, at least 4 or 5 times. That was his pathological something, or that was his pathology. Did you notice that?
Yeah, and that's kind of a big thing, like in the book. So these people, aliens come. Here's the spoilers, y'all.
Spoilers.
Here be spoilers. These people are happily living their life, conducting their scientific research.
Actually, this is funny because the beginning of it felt very much. See, I grew up in academia, which was this environment. It was very familiar to me. And it was almost like reading, I don't know, Lucky Jim or Goodbye, Mr. Chips, or it was the first chapter. And I'm thinking, is this sci-fi? They're on a world, a weirdly named world, Anxian. But it's very Earth-like. And they're in an academic research setting. And the big story for the first few chapters is academic politics. Right?
Yeah. And I also thought the book was going to go totally a different place.
Yes.
Because they spent so much time telling me about like how humans obviously came to this world, and it has a different, like, I don't remember if it was a silicate structure of like, their research was all about how you could bring these two together. So I was like, oh my God, they're going to unlock some sort of like God gene. And then and that didn't happen at all because
if that's the entire first beginning gets thrown out,
it's gone.
All the politics don't matter. Later. But I think there's a moral there, which is you're focusing on these like little, and this is really true in academia, in the smallest, how many angels can dance on the head of a pin, the smallest scholastic differences that don't really matter in the long run. And that's kind of the lesson by the next chapter, because this is really a book about first contact, right? The first alien.
Second contact. These, I feel like aliens are established because humans clearly landed on this alien planet. So
I didn't come to that conclusion. I just thought, they didn't want to make it about Earth, but it was very Earth-like. Did they say they came to this planet?
No, they had they have 2 separate like life forms. They said humans landed later. Here.
Isn't it? Oh, yeah, there's 2 sentient. Okay, so the aliens observed there's 2 sentient life forms on this planet.
Well, there's 2 different structures. There's the silicon crystallate structure. Like even the grass grows differently for the things that the Earthlings brought. Anyway, the point
I didn't get that, but you're right. That makes sense. But it really wasn't to me. It was really more like you could be on Earth. This could be.
Was vested in it. I was. Oh,
that's interesting.
This is going to be so fascinating.
I'm going to reread it now and pay more attention to that.
Yeah, but just like the first 2 chapters and see where you think that book might go.
They do say when the newscaster comes on, because they've observed, oh my God, there's 17 things coming towards us, that it would be first contact. They do say that. So I'm going to treat it as a first contact novel, which is a classic sci-fi trope. And often in first contact novels, so first of all, they're all worried about this, academic stuff. And then suddenly aliens are coming and throw it all out. Nobody cares. And I thought that was a good moral. But then, as with all first contacts, are they going to be nice? Are they going to be mean? What are they going to be? In the 3-body problem, the whole first book is about don't contact the aliens. You don't know what they're going to do. And the chances are they're an advanced culture way ahead of ours just because they can get here. So they may just look at us as ants. And
these people look at us as cows.
They do. Yes, they do. So the aliens in this are called the Carricks.
They're like, I'm picturing lobsters.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to. They have a thorax with multiple legs that goes along the ground, and then it bends in the middle. And then they have what they call fighting arms, big fighting arms that go on the ground, and then littler feeding arms. So they have at least 8 limbs. I think they have 8 limbs. I think that was the final count. So they're kind of buggy, but they do say they came from the ocean, or at least Dafydd, or is it Tanner?
Water
One
world.
of them figures out that they're an aquatic species. So I think that's interesting. And to answer the question about first contact, they're not very nice.
Big old jerks. Big angry lobsters. Actually, they're not jerks, because I feel like, well, maybe it's a jerk thing. They're callous. They see
don't
us.
care.
Yeah, they care not at all.
We don't care about cows, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people care about cows.
We
but
don't think about how cows feel.
Yeah.
It's just like that.
Come in, they're like, all right, here's our beings. Will they be useful? I don't know. We're going to start off. We don't want them to fight a lot because that'd be kind of a pain. If they kill an eighth of the population. I did like how they brought in, like, you've got 8 primary arms. So these people think in like base 8.
And in fact, one of the punishments, if you get out of line, is they break one of your arms.
Yep.
So there's a reason for killing an 8th. Yeah.
And these guys, like, I'm used to like the swarm intelligence. So there's also this swarm intelligence running around that we see later. And I was like, oh God, this is going to be another humans versus like the hive mind. And I was like, I guess I'll be into it. But I'm like, I'm not super excited about it. But these guys still kind of hivey or very hierarchical, but they are much more just like, they don't give 2 flips about anything. They're like utilitarianism.
The swarm is interesting. It actually makes its appearance in the academia part. And it's the first twist in the novel, because you're going along and thinking, this is interesting sci-fi, because it's really just a bunch of academics squabbling amongst each other over research. And then it turns out one of them has been infested and in the process killed, although their memories and feelings persist, by this swarm. So you think the swarm is an enemy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then another twist comes along later, which it turns out the swarm is our ally.
Well, I don't think it was. So I think the swarm is kind of like the Carricks in the sense that they're 2 bigger entities, and the swarm kind of grows to care about human and see us as allies. Because at first we were very disposable. Our bodies.
And to be clear, the swarm is not the alien race. It is a creation, a nanotech creation of the alien race designed to do espionage on the Carricks, because this alien race, which we haven't met yet, is at war with the Carricks. The Great War, it's called. And they're trying to find out. And they knew that the Carricks were going to invade Angian. I'm thinking of it as Earth. And so they sent the swarm to gather information. So really, they're just a technology. They're not even... But what's interesting, and I like this a lot, is as they inhabit these humans, they end up inhabiting 3 different, is it 2 or 3? 3 different humans.
3.
They become more and more human-like. They start getting emotions and stuff, which I thought was really interesting. And eventually, I think they do care about us, don't they? Don't you?
I think they come to care for Dafydd.
I listened, by the way, I was listening to it on Audible. It's a great reader. He did The Expanse as well. But I did want to read it, so I downloaded it on Kobo as well. And so I got to see the spellings and the reader's pronunciation. So I thought it was Angian was the name of, it's Anjin, but he's actually Angian is how he's pronouncing the planet. And David is how he pronounces it. Tanner, Jessen, and Gellet. Who else? Else, not Elsa, else. So I got all the pronunciations from the reader, presuming that he's getting the pronunciations from Ty and Daniel.
Is David Welsh? It looks Welsh, but
it does look Welsh.
I didn't know if there was like a language we were pulling from here.
You see, because this is only the first book, you're trying to read into it, aren't you? You're trying to like figure out what's going to happen next.
So world building to me is, I mean, plot is the most important, but I never read just for plot. I always have to have the world building, which is why like I was so attuned to like what was happening in those first chapters with like the bicameral life system, for whatever, for lack of better words.
Yeah, because you're trying to build this Angian, which it turns out is completely irrelevant.
Yeah, which I invested a lot of brain cells in that, and that was So far pointless. I mean, in The Expanse, it's a galactic war. So presumably
The Expanse
we
is
may come
very
back.
much about politics. And in
Yeah.
fact, earlier on, when we first started, there was somebody in the chat who said they started reading the book, and when it got so political, they stopped reading. It was too much about politics. I don't feel like this is The Mercy of Gods is that political. What it did remind me of is concentration camp literature.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, they ended up transferring. So the aliens, the Carricks come, they kill an eighth of the population just so nobody fights back. Then they take, I don't know, the top of the creme de la crop of whatever.
Yeah, we don't realize that at first, but they've taken the best of the best.
The best of the best. And they take them back to their homeworld. There's a chunk of the book takes place in the journey from Anjian to the homeworld where, man, real brutal.
It is nice. They're pooping on a mat, basically. They don't give them any clothes. And really, it's a concentration camp, isn't it? I mean, I think it's a concentration camp. And it feels very much like the concentration camp literature I've read. And people do the same thing. In fact, there were two different groups. Both groups formed a choral group and started doing singing. And I've read that also. That happens happened in the Nazi concentration camps. They would form.
They mention that in the book,
singing.
like verbatim.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about that.
So there is very much a section where it's not sci-fi. There's a revolt against the jailers, and the jailers are not. Oh, this is to me the most interesting part. I wonder given your world building bent, maybe you thought the same. The number of alien species, because the Carricks have been doing this for a long time. They've collected dozens of very alien species. Some of them they use, two of them, the Rakuns and the Lothar are used as soldiers for them. They're basically the trustees, right? They're the and in fact, at one point there's a revolt, and they tear apart one of the Lothar, and they don't care. Carricks doesn't care. They don't care.
The Lothar don't even care.
They eat the body. They don't even care.
I mean, maybe they care in eating there are cultures that eat the dead. So
see, that's what's interesting and I thought that they did a good job of all these different species, right?
Right. Every other was kind of other in their own way.
There's some that float and sing. They all have different languages. They come up. They do have a translator. They call AIs. I like this, half minds in the book. I like that.
I wondered if it was a straight up AI or if there was a biological component because he shudders to think about half minds in the same way he shudders with all the alien species.
And
so I was like,
creepy crawlies. I thought one of the most interesting. So it turns out this research group on Anjian is brought by the aliens to be useful. That's the only measure of an alien species. Are you going to be useful to the Carricks, right? And the Carricks are a classic, inbred, aristocratic, creepy culture, right? Which is ultimately going to be their downfall. This is another thing they do. They telegraph that, don't they? Because the epigrams at the beginning of some of the chapters.
Oh, yeah, you do definitely. I mean, you're like, oh, I've got to pay attention to this guy.
Yeah, because
he hates them already. So in some ways, it actually made the book and the plot feel a little creeping and slow because I already kind of had it. I mean, I didn't obviously in the very beginning, but as it went along, I'm like, Jesus, God, make your freaking move, man.
Jemmer B says those Lothar are the soft Lothar. Which are the jailers. And then, not to be confused, says Jemmer B, with a high Lothar. I don't even remember the high. Do we meet the high Lothar?
I don't know. I don't remember the high. Jammer B's got it. Do you read these and take notes, man?
Oh, Jammer B's very serious about this. Wojo says, and we're looking at his chat right there. The librarians, who is a Carricks, said an animal does not choose its essential nature and place in society. He says, I thought that was incredibly illogical for an advanced species to think that. The Carricks judge the lower species, and I think it's safe to say they consider every other alien a lower species, right? It's very hierarchical. Even within the Carricks, they consider the only reason they'd be interested is their utility. I honestly think these guys, Daniel and Ty, are trying to give us kind of a morality play about humans. because we do the same thing.
We do it for, like, imagine a horse. Like, I could love my horse, but most people don't spend a lot of time trying to inhabit the worldview of a horse, right? You treat it nicely in the way that you as a human kind of would like to be treated.
Yeah, because they're useful. Well, I guess cats aren't particularly useful.
Which gets you to, like, do you know, was it David Foster Wallace, Consider the Lobster, his excellent essay? Maybe the Carrix looks like lobster because we're like the people in the look, book club moment.
Oh, I love it. In fact, there is a point at which Tanner, I think, the guy who's always funny, who resorts to humor, says we need get some melted butter.
Oh no, that's not Tanner. That's Kamar.
No, it's the guy. Yeah, Kamar. Yeah, who's the funny man.
Yeah.
But see, that's what I thought there was some really psychological insight, because there are people, you must know them, who make jokes when they're uncomfortable. And that's Kamar. In fact, they go in, and this is the person who didn't like the book also said, I don't like omniscient narration. And this is omniscient narration where each chapter you're kind of in the mind of one of the characters. At one point they're in the mind of Kamar, and he's thinking, gosh, I wish I didn't have to make jokes all the time. I can't stop myself.
It's his pathological whatever.
It's his pathological, yeah. I think there's a lot of insight. Here's my thing. Maybe I'm projecting. I believe that Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank, aka James S.A. Corey, it's a morality play that's intended to teach us about our own arrogance. I think they're very much more so than The Expanse. Where The Expanse, the characters were well drawn. In this book, the characters, I feel like you really care about some of them, you dislike some of them. They're very thoroughly drawn. Do you agree?
I do. That was actually, so I read a lot of literary fiction, and you know how in literary fiction, you're constantly like inhabiting the mind and gaining insights from that. I actually felt this had things in common with literary fiction in the sense that the character development and understanding where they were coming from. And
that's one of the reasons I liked it.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to say at the beginning. It wasn't that cold, metallic sci-fi. This was literary.
All right. So we've talked I read sci-fi for plot and world building, and understanding human nature is a small part of it. But I could see you're I want plot and the human nature because
I want it all. Well, for instance, we're Steve Gibson and I and Jammer B are reading the latest from an author we like, Peter F. Hamilton, who's a hard sci-fi guy, and his newest just came out, and it's very long. And Steve observed, and I agree with him, he got to the end of it. He observed that it's you don't care about anybody.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't like that. And I think that that might be one of Hamilton's flaws. His people, they're not wooden. They're well described, but there's no human contact. This book is full of it.
Yeah, you learn about I think of it as you learn about their feelings even when it doesn't necessarily drive the plot in a more so you can identify with them. And
do you think the women were well written? Else and Jessen and Noel's wife.
They weren't poorly written.
Yeah.
I don't actually spend it only jumps out at me if you were poorly written.
Really badly done. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wait, what? What? No.
Two guys typically would not be good at writing the female characters.
I feel like I think men can write women well.
Yeah.
I think it's probably harder for them to write women well than it might be for a woman to write men well, because a lot of times men are not as aware of their own internal lives, and the
women spend a lot more time thinking about what the guys are up to than the guys think what are the women up to. Is that? But I think
that's kind of what a writer is supposed to do anyway, right?
That's your job.
So I've never. Yeah, so I think the women are fine. I'm a super depressed person, so I thought Jessen's description of her depression was really awesome.
I've not really talked about it much, but we have a family member who's diagnosed bipolar, and I'm very close to. And I thought the description of Jessen's mental illness was beautifully done. And she leans on her brother, Jesset, to protect her. Jessin and Jellin, to protect her when she loses control of her mind. I thought it was nice, but just very insightfully and beautifully done. This is where I was really impressed with these guys. I don't feel like The Expanse showed their real mettle, but this did. They really are deeply aware of the human condition and a variety of them. So that's why I'm asking you about how they wrote women, because I'm curious,
Yeah, I mean, there's as many different kind of women as there are men. So yes, and none of these, like, the women all were distinct enough, right? Like else, like usually like women in some of these books, you can really tell they're poorly written because they'll just use their attractiveness or sex appeal to like advance the plot. And Els totally does that.
And admits it. And even knows in her head, I always seem to sleep with high status men. And I don't like that about myself. And by the way, I know people like that. Yeah.
That felt real. And the fact that we don't know anything about it, other people's sex lives, I'm like, thank you. Yes, that's great. Yeah. So that felt
it's little things like that. Every time that would happen in the book, I'm going, yeah, good job, guys. You've really captured some part of the human experience. To me, reading a book is about seeing into others' lives more than world building and science. I want to see how the other half lives. I want to experience what they're going through. And I feel like this book did a very good job of that. It took them from something they were super comfortable with and put them in a very stressful, uncomfortable situation, and something that was unusual, so unusual. And some of them rose to the occasion. Dafydd rises to the occasion. He might have been, had he stayed on Anjin, a trivial Nepo baby. But right? That's what they're painting him as. He's a junior researcher playing off his connection with his aunt, who's like a trustee. But put in this new situation, this stressful situation, rises to the occasion. And then some don't. Like Noel's wife, was it Cinia?
Cinia. Yeah. Okay.
Who just can't move after her husband is one of the 1/8 killed. Just can't move.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, like, you're right. I think that encapsulates the many varied reactions one might have to aliens invading your planet, killing 1/8 of the population, and then taking the best of you away.
Yeah, I would have been her, by the way.
I feel like I probably would have been Jessin, but I did miss.
She triumphs too, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's what I would like to be. I don't know.
She ends up rising to the occasion, much like Dafydd.
But I thought it was weird that we didn't ever hear anything more about what was happening at home. Like, there were so few, and I get it. Like, you're in this weird, stressful situation, but I was like, and maybe because they were academic researchers, they didn't have that many people. All we heard was,
no, I think they cared. See, this is the thing. I mean, think when you get put in this concentration camp, all sorts of weird pathologies happen. And one of them is, in order to remain sane, you can't be thinking about what's going on at home. It's in fact, for the people in the concentration camp who kind of pine for the good old days, don't do well. Right?
Well, okay, yeah, I can see that.
And we do, by the way, we find out later in the book, another big spoiler, that because they have proven useful, they're going to spare the planet.
Yeah.
They save the planet. Although they point out, we don't know if that's true.
Right.
Maybe the librarian just said that. We don't know how truthful the librarian is.
Well, they could save the planet, and then eventually they're no longer useful. I mean,
right.
Like
they're always hanging by a thread, always. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no question about the power of these guys, right?
Yeah. This gets kind of to this like big picture, like, is life is clearly brutish and short with these guys, right? You're always trying to like get ahead. And
you mean the Carricks or the humans?
The Carricks, right? You know, if you're a human under Carrick's rule. And I mean, I think a lot of people feel that way today in terms of like making a living and being a human being. Whereas we keep going, we in the past had moments where everything wasn't quite so harsh, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if there's like parallels between where we might feel as a culture today in like the Carricks, right?
Well, I know for myself, I put myself in their position. I think you did too, and said I would be Jessen. I put myself in their position. I don't think I would have done well. I don't think I would have. I would have said, "This is hopeless. I give up." I would have given up.
Would you? So would you have thought? Because I found David's choice. I mean, to me, it felt really obvious.
He's the one who can empathize with others and thinks about others' motivations and what's going on in others' brains. And he becomes the diplomat, the hero, and eventually the leader. He does it in an interesting way. Tanner, who's the former leader, he was the academic researcher, the stellar mind, the Einstein of the community, who was revered, the leader of this research group. The whole research group is transported. But at one point, when they're about to get rewarded for their research, he stands up and says, "What's going on? I don't like this one bit." And David saves his life by forcing him to lie on his face, spread his arms out, then stomps on his arm, breaks his arm like the Carricks do. This is, by the way, where David's pathology is a lifesaver. And the Carricks go, okay, well, you humbled him, so we're not going to kill him. And I guess you're the leader, David.
Yeah, for good or ill.
You're in charge, buddy. I'm really enjoying this. Now, somebody's asking, what do you think the current host of the Swarm is? I think that we know that.
It's Gelid.
It's Gelid.
Yeah.
Maybe who's the next one? Is that what you're asking? Because Gelid clearly becomes, so the Swarm inhabits first a woman who's thrown away. Never continues. And then it goes into Else, right? And then eventually into Gelid. But carries with it the feelings, the thoughts, the emotions of the people it's occupied. So I think that's going to end up being an interesting development, I predict.
Yeah. And I think I'm like, I can't wait to see. Again, real mad that I've got to wait, but can't wait to see. I'm never going to let y'all forget this.
Else dies. Yeah.
Else dies.
Somebody's asking, did Else get killed? Yeah, but the Swarm kills the person it inhabits inevitably. And if it moves, that person's just a body, right?
Yeah. Which, I mean, not ideal. And I don't know if it raises some questions about consciousness, just because does the consciousness of a person, is that what's moving, or is it just their memories? I really don't know.
It's a nanotech bot that at its beginning knows nothing, right? Literally knows nothing about its creators even, so that it has plausible deniability. They say that. But as it turns out, each body it inhabits, it inherits feelings, thoughts, and memories from that body and brings it with it into the next body, even though that person is now dead. So it talks about the taste of food that the first person really liked.
And there was some judgment in there. That's what I thought was so interesting. It wasn't just a memory, but the Amira thing was judging Else for sleeping with high status men.
Right.
And I'm like,
and now Else knows that.
Right.
It's being inhabited. Else is being inhabited.
So I was like, is that is some entity of them still alive? I mean, is it more than the memories? I don't know.
Well, I think that there's more to come on that one. I really feel like they're going to develop that swarm. It's going to be very interesting. Plus, we're going to eventually meet the beings that created the swarm. Yeah. We kind of know that they effectively defeated the Carricks in their system because we hear about that, and the Carricks come back from that.
Well, I don't think that was their system. I think that was some other system, and they used it as a trap.
Oh, that's right. They trapped it.
They sprung a trap. We don't know anything about their system or.
The other thing I loved and I felt really was interesting, the research task this team is brought to the Carricks world to solve is very fascinating. They're given two disparate species from two different worlds. And they're saying, we want you to figure out how this plant with little berries can feed this turtle-like species. And what they figure out, which is fascinating, is that these berries aren't really berries. There's a creature that is inside itself farming its food. It's growing its food inside itself. and they slice it open. They figure that out. They figure out how you can reprogram the food. At one point, making medicine for Jesson, making her psychomedicine.
Antidepressants or whatever, yeah.
Yeah. And then eventually figuring out how they can use those little internal farms to feed these turtle people. That's why they get celebrated and, oh, you're useful. And the Carricks then promote them. We don't know what they've been promoted to, right? They get the feather monkey lab, the night eaters lab.
Yeah, I was sad about the feather monkeys.
Really?
Like, oh,
they were pretty monkey-like.
I mean,
they would throw their poop and they tried to blow up.
Poop. They threw bombs.
They threw bombs. Night drinkers. That's it. Yeah.
The night drinkers, feather monkeys. Yeah. I was like, I mean, maybe I wouldn't have lasted actually, because I was like, God, they could just communicate and get along. But not in the Carrick Society. Yeah. I might have failed.
The feather monkeys started it. This is a man talking. They started it.
Yeah, but they started it because they knew the repercussions if they
they were given the same task. Right? They had the same task of Barry's turtles. Yeah.
Yeah. And think they might, if they collaborated, maybe they would have learned other things.
So if there's a failing in this book, they don't really give you any reason to like the night drinkers. You don't know anything about them or their motivations. You're projecting. I think you're projecting correctly.
I mean, you don't really know anything about the other aliens. We got that brief interlude after David got the translator box where they did this very quick conversation
with the bone horses.
Yeah.
Wasn't that fascinating?
That was super fascinating. I was like, bone horses. That is a really crazy pathology right there.
Talk about world building. They built the world they're living in.
Yeah, the ziggurats and whatnot.
The Carricks, it turns out, aren't very good architects. But one of the captive species. They killed all the artists. Yeah. Well, that's another thing. The Carricks let the bone horses and other species decorate the ziggurats and make them beautiful. Carricks didn't really care.
Yeah, these people, the Carricks as a people, aside from killing an eighth of the population, just generally their worldview seems so small compared to.
Oh, they're terrible.
I mean,
but that's going to be their downfall, right? Because in fact, even in the epigrams, the librarian kind of intimates that we had no idea that this guy could be our downfall.
Oh yeah, that's true. And Jammer B brought this up. They're like, look, at the very first page, they're like, this is our downfall. So we know what's coming. We just got to.
That's an interesting choice. Do you like that kind of foreshadowing like that?
I do if it gets this there faster.
I don't think James S.A. Corey's looking at faster.
Yeah, I don't mind it if your pacing is appropriate, but sometimes I was kind of like, okay, dude, I get it. Daffod's going to have to technically screw over all the humans to actually save the humans. Let's just
hurry up with the screw over.
Yeah. Let's get there. Okay. Less human, more plot. New worlds to build.
I think there were moments when I'm reading it when I'm thinking, okay, come on. But I got to say, by the end of it, I'm very sad. I wanted more.
Well, you're going to get more.
I guess I am.
I will say the reason I started this is because, I started reading Robert Jordan's Book of Time books.
Oh my God.
And the first 3 were so good. And then I was like, oh my God, man, you really have to stop. I never finished. Did they finish? I don't even know.
I have them all.
Then George R.R. Martin and Game of Thrones. Same thing. I was like, God.
And what's that wonderful book that I put it out of my mind. I blanked it out now because I don't want to think about it. But the author has just decided to drop it. And it was another great world building kind of, Jammer B, you know who I'm talking about. Name of the Wind. Thank you. It's
so I should not read that even.
It's wonderful, but it stops in the middle.
Yeah, that's brutal. That's just
and
rude.
It's just like George R.R. Martin. The author's I know, I'm going to finish it. He wrote a short story, Patrick Rothfuss. He's actually, he's written
other books.
Yeah, he had a fundraiser to finish it and then spend all the money on wine, women, and song or something. I don't know. It's not a happy.
Very artistic thing to do. I'm like, okay. He probably was very self-aware as he was doing. He's like, this is a bad call. That's making me feel complicated. I shouldn't be doing this.
Well, we know that James S.A. Corey, a.k.a. Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank, have the wherewithal to finish this series. But you're right. It's a bit of a gamble, especially if you're a world builder. I didn't know this about you, that that's what you like to do.
I just think it's, I mean, that's to me the point of science fiction, is to build this world and put people in it and see what you can change to make things that you can't tell stories that are set on Earth, right?
Right.
Like,
well, but even that, you tell, and I think The Expanse was this too. You tell stories that are not set on Earth, but have morals that apply to life as a human. They're not completely out of nowhere.
I don't think you could write a book as a human that didn't have morals that applied to humans. Like,
you should read you should read this. You should read this Peter F. Franklin book.
Okay.
I don't
like,
think
I would totally read like the alien literature from whatever palace that we're in, just to see like the person, like, and we've talked about, we talked about in last time, like a perspective shift between the human perspective and then the alien perspective. I think it was it's not Tchaikovsky. That's, what's his name? Adrian
Tchaikovsky, the robot book.
It is Tchaikovsky? Yeah. It's one of his
you wouldn't
novellas.
think so, but it is.
Like, is it?
Can't be Tchaikovsky.
Of course, that is my brain right now.
That name's taken.
That name's taken. Do we want, because we're coming up,
getting up to the end.
Other comments from other people?
I liked this book a lot. I think it's the best one we've read yet, personally. But I know you probably don't agree with that. But.
Oh, Wojo doesn't want to read anymore. He feels about this the way I felt about the Bob books.
He says, I'm a bit hesitant to get worked up to the next in the series. I could read maybe one or two more, but no more than that. There is a fifth Bob book came out, and I was done.
Nope.
I read it and was like, no, stop writing the Bobaverse books. You're done. You're cooked. It's like, it happens on TV too. It's like West Wing. The first 4 seasons, brilliant. Should probably have stopped there. Same thing with Game of Thrones. What are your nominations? Okay, Anthony Nielsen, who is our producer today and always is, get out your pencil, because Stacey is going to nominate our next read. And I have to say, I was reluctant when I joined this. Ann had been doing it, and I was reluctant. I thought, I don't want to be told what to read. Now I'm excited. I can't wait. I'm ready.
Okay.
I've read some stuff I would not have read otherwise.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to suggest book 1 is Hum by Helena Phillips. And this is like Clara and the Sun meets something. It's that kind of feel. Okay. So it's
I love Clara. I thought that was a wonderful book, and a perfect example of one I probably would not have read, even though I like Ishiguro a lot, because I read Remains of the Day, but I would probably not have read it. But
so this is it's a future book set in the, I would call it the very near future. It's pretty dystopian, but it's dystopian in a way that might feel recognizable. And it's actually kind of a story about being, it's about being a parent and cancel culture. I can say those things. Okay. So I really loved it.
By Helena Phillips.
Hum.
Okay. That's book 1. So the way this works, if you're new to this, we're going to vote. And we'll have a couple weeks to vote on your choices. So everybody in the club gets to vote.
And then I read this and thought it was good. So this is a sequel, but it's a standalone sequel. So kind of like that Anne Leckie translation book. You don't have to have read any of the other books. And this is called Those Beyond the Wall by Micaiah Johnson. It's a sequel to The Space Between Worlds, if you guys read it.
Oh, yeah. I did not read it, but I remember it, yeah.
So that's a fun, it also a little dystopian.
Dystopian, grim, sad, the future, not great, that kind of thing.
And I'm trying to think of, I was looking for something a little spacey. I read the Booker Prize, Orbital.
I think anything that wins a Booker Prize is worth winning.
Okay, you say this, but
you're not selling it, Stacey.
There's not a lot of plot, so I'm kind of like, oh, do I really want to? I mean, to me, it's like, you know, the stories in the New Yorker where you're like, the joke is basically you're like, oh, I'm inhabiting. It's really rich and textured, and then you stop and you're like, wait, nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Slice of life fiction. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Orbital.
Mm-hmm. Is it in a sci-fi world? I guess it is.
No, it's like it's set on the ISS.
Oh, Jesus.
It's a fictional book set on the International Space Station.
Oh,
no, let's not pick that one.
Yeah, I think you just killed it.
I'm letting you know that like a sci-fi-ish book did win the Booker, if anyone's interested, and it's a very short novel.
Very prestigious writing prize.
Yeah. But, you know, if you're not into it, and I didn't dislike it, but I wouldn't give that to like a sci-fi. A sci-fi book club is not the place for that, I think. Let's do The Practice, The Horizon, and The Chain by Sophia Samatar. Mostly because I started it and I like it so far, but I haven't finished it.
Okay, good. Yeah, you know, I guess this puts pressure on you to come up with books you've read. So it shouldn't have to be that way, right?
Well, this book is very short. The reason I didn't finish reading it is because I had to give it back to the library because I forgot that I had taken it out. Okay. So I'm going to have to get back.
It's called The Practice, The Horizon, and The Chain?
Yes.
That's a long title. All right.
Yeah, for a 127-page book.
The title's almost as long as the book. Okay.
It's kind of like, what's that? Snowpiercer?
Yeah.
Except it's set on a spaceship.
Okay. I'm taking notes. Snowpiercer on a spaceship.
Is it Snowpiercer?
Train.
Is that the train?
That's the one on the train, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. There's 3 for you.
So there you go.
I think we put Orbital in just as a wild card because there may be some people. I mean,
we could put it in. People don't have to vote for it, or they can. I mean, I read it.
Maybe somebody's read it and says, "Oh, good."
I mean,
By the way, I meant to say this, but Microscorpion has pointed out that Mercy of the Gods, he says, will be a trilogy, and it's already signed a development deal with Amazon MGM Studios because The Expanse was a huge hit. And so they were already in development. The Captives' War.
Who was the author of the Orbital? I didn't.
Oh yeah, we didn't get the author. Who wrote Orbital?
Oh, hold on.
We only know that it won the Booker.
Orbital. Samantha Harvey.
Samantha Harvey. And does this fit your original portfolio?
Yes. So,
okay.
Yes, you guys, book club it's not a dictatorship. Book club
yes, it is. It's
for
Stacey's book club. It says it in the title.
And
it's not my book club. It's your book club.
I do want to give you guys books that, like, I like book club because it forces me to read things that I don't normally pick up. Good. I mean, in my book club, obviously that's not true, but like. Right.
Well, we've forced you to read 2 books now, the Bobaverse book and Mercy of the Gods. Mercy of Gods, by the way. I noticed the lack of the Mercy of Gods, which is, I think there's something in that title.
Well, I think these guys are equivalent to, like, the Carricks and the creators of the Storm are equivalent to gods, is my guess.
Mercy of Gods, but not much mercy. I guess, well, there was mercy. The humans were allowed to continue on.
Is that, mercy implies that you're coming from a position of strength or right. being right. And
yeah, you're right. That's
seeing that someone else is worth it, I feel like, or
yeah,
I don't know.
Mercy of gods. Well, maybe because there's no definite article, who we think gods are not maybe who the gods end up being. So it could be mercy of gods. It could be Dafydd is a merciful god at the end. We don't know.
What if Dafydd gets inhabited by the swarm and together they become like this uber Dafydd?
Oh, I like it. They become like Henry Kissinger.
Maybe.
Never die.
No, not Henry Kissinger. No.
Never dies. He's a diplomat who never dies. All right, we have 4 books. Hum by Helena Phillips, a near future dystopia that covers both parenting and cancel culture. Those Beyond the Wall by M. Johnson, also dystopian, but fun, in a fun way. Orbital, Booker Prize winner, but a terrible book, A Slice of Life in Space on the ISS by Samantha Harvey. And The Practice, the Horizon, and the Chain, short but sweet, by Sophia Samatar, and it's a Snowpiercer on a spaceship.
I really want to, I feel like you added some editorial comment about being short but sweet, and then something else that you said. I'm like, oh, that may not actually be true, but okay.
I lied.
Like our dystopian but happy?
Yeah, I added the happy because I know nobody will vote for it otherwise. That was those Beyond the Walls.
Let this vote ride for maybe a month because we're
going through the holidays, maybe through the 15th of January. How about that? Give you plenty of time to vote, and then we'll have to go a month after that because you have to have plenty of time to read, depending on what book passes. I think people are going to be contrarian and vote for Orbital. That's what I think.
I mean, again, it's fine. It's a beautiful book.
I like slice of life fiction. I read it all the time.
Well, you should. I mean, Orbital was I think it's is it 200 pages? I mean, it's not long. You could read it. I like
the shorter ones, although, I stopped in the middle of this Peter F. Hamilton, The Archimedes Engine, book 1, to read this. And it was so good, I didn't want to go back to the Peter F. Hamilton. Because that usually happens about a week out. I go, oh, crap. I got to read the book. This one I really, really enjoyed. I have to say, this is one of my favorites of the entire. Well, Clara and the Sun was so good. Loved that.
Well, Clara and the Sun. And, we haven't read the 3 Body Problem, which is one of my all-time 10s.
See, I read the first volume.
Yeah.
I think it suffered from poor translation. The writing felt a little bit mechanical and wooden, but I did like the ideas. And since you like world building, you would definitely like that.
I really did you ever read any of the Arcady Martin books?
No.
Okay. They're amazing. And they are also on a spaceship. We've never done any of them. I don't remember why.
Well,
Maybe in February I should put one on there. But
put one on there for next time. Yeah.
It's like The Expanse meets Ancillary Justice. Is that true?
That sounds good.
It's really, they're really good. I really enjoyed them. And I know at least 2 other people in the book club have been like, yes.
All right.
So
we'll make a note of that. Katie Martin next time.
So
Stacey, all is well with the Higginbothams?
Yeah, they're actually not the Higginbothams. I'm the only Higginbotham in our house, but
that's okay. You know what I mean.
Because no one would change their name. I was like,
damn, that's such a good name. I'd change it. I'd be Leo Higginbotham. That sounds like I should have been if I were Leo Higginbotham, I'd either be a novelist or a Shakespearean actor.
I think that's Leon Higginbotham. There's actually a federal court judge who's a Leon Higginbotham.
I will never be a federal court judge. Although when my daughter was born, my wife and I fought over naming her Abby. I said, what if she becomes a judge? She has to be Abigail. If she becomes a judge, she can't be Judge Abby.
I don't know.
Do you ascribe to the notion that you grow up to kind of become your name?
God, I hope not, because Stacey is such a goofy name.
Oh, Stacey's a great name.
Stacey is like a cheerleader from the 70s. There are no Staceys. I am the Hildegard or the, I don't know.
Hildegard. That's
Just pick
good.
a-
Hildegard Higginbotham is quite a name.
Oh, that is quite the moniker. It's not even a name at that point. It becomes a moniker.
It's a moniker. My God, woman, you have a moniker. All right, Stacey, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Put some
Happy
Christmas
holidays.
stuff up.
We have a tree in it. You know me.
Okay.
I just never have anything in my
Did you
office.
automate the tree? Did you have some IoT tree stuff?
I mean, I have a smart plug. I do recommend everyone automate their Christmas lights with a
It's
smart plug.
much
'cause
easier. I agree. Yeah.
Why
I
wouldn't
agree.
you? But yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you so much, Stacey. Thank you to all of you
Thank you,
who
guys.
joined us. I like having the chat going on in the side there, so I don't have to read it and pay attention to it. Well, I mean, I don't have to read it out loud and pick out comments. And everybody was very polite, so that's good.
Yeah, they're always polite. I want more from y'all, though. I want more insights. And
It ain't a club without
opinions. Without you.
Yeah,
You can't have a club without you.
that would be club.
Club.
Okay.
All right.
And
Bye,
a big
y'all.
thanks to our Club TWiT members, because that's who this is for and that's who makes this possible. If you're watching live on our 8 streams, I understand. I do. But it's not for you. Sorry. It's for the people who pay $7 a month to support what we do and who want to foster more of this. twit.tv/Club TWiT, the place to go. This morning, Great Micah's Crafting Corner. We do a lot of other programming that's for everybody, but the club pays for it too. So help us out. Join the club. It's a great group of people. twit.tv/Club TWiT. And Stacey, we'll see you in February.
February.
Yeah, John Slaninas hates it. He hates the month he hates because I say February and he drives him nuts.
Do you also go to restaurants?
Restaurant.
Restaurants.
I say they put an R there for a reason.
Do you say salmon?
No, I don't say salmon.
Okay, then
Salmon.
there's some inconsistencies happening.
And
there.
almond. Not almond, but salmon. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't like
All
silent
right.
letters. Thank
No
you,
one-
Stacey. On that note, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a great Christmas. Happy holidays,
Happy
and we'll see you in
holidays.
the new year. Bye-bye.
Bye.